Hi folks, it's Corey, giving you an overview for week 5. I do want to point out that this week I'm trying something different because I really want to make sure that folks are getting their things done on time and are budgeting the right amount of time. I myself am working this full-time job. I have a family and I'm also taking online classes. So I understand the balance of trying to fit in different pieces. I want to point out though that in a face-to-face class, you would actually be spending 5 hours in class and then probably 5 hours outside of class on homework. I feel like our online class actually really you could probably do everything in 5 hours or less a week because I try to make it very efficient for you. That being said, you do have to put in that time. So what I've tried to put in for this week 5 is an approximate how much time I think this will take an average student. Some of you will be able to get done with these pieces much sooner. Some of you it might take a little bit longer. If it's taking you double the amount of time on something, that's not necessarily bad. You're probably just very careful, or you may be someone who processes at a little bit slower rate than some of your peers. But even if you doubled all of the times I've allotted here, you would still be at under 10 hours, which would be pretty normal for a face-to-face pre-college English class. When you get to a piece like the signal phrases, please note that the signal phrase quiz, it's not going to take you a half an hour to do the quiz. The 30 minutes I've allotted is because it will link you to a page I had in week 4 that kind of gives you videos about signal phrases and talks to you about signal phrases. So before you take the signal phrase quiz, you're going to want to make sure that you've accessed that page. So that's why I've allotted 30 minutes for that particular activity. The paraphrase piece, this is paraphrasing from Major Decisions. I have I have a PowerPoint that I have on paraphrasing. I have 2 videos on paraphrasing. So if you've never done paraphrasing, you're going to probably want to watch both videos. If you've done some paraphrasing, you may end up wanting to watch this one, which is only 6 minutes. Again, this one is 17 minutes. So I've allotted about a half an hour here because I'm not quite sure how much background knowledge you'll need on this. The actual assignment, the paraphrasing assignment, might only take you 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but I'm trying to have people realize if you don't budget enough time, you're either going to just not do the assignment or you're going to try and just make it up really quick. And so I want you to budget the time that it's going to take to absorb the concepts, not just complete the assignment. The big piece that I wanted to talk about is project number 2. So when you get to this, it says project number 2. By the way, I put everything sequentially into our week. So you'll notice this should be done first. This is the overview that you're watching right now. Then work on signal phrases. Signal phrases are a piece that you're going to need for all the other pieces we do this week. Then the paraphrase from Major Decisions, you had a Major Decisions discussion board last week where I asked for you to read this piece in the college textbook, and actually that's the name of our textbook is College. You've already read the essay, so when you go to paraphrase a piece out of it, I'm assuming that it's not going to take you quite as long because you actually had a whole discussion board on this last week. So I'm hoping that you're starting to see everything I put into our modules builds on the last week's pieces that were in the modules, which builds on the week before pieces. Likewise, as you move down the screen, each piece is set up to help you do the next piece. So this rough draft discussion board is going to help you with this project number 2. But I do want to, I'm opening up project number 2 here, which is not due until May 17th. It is posted in this week though, because I wanted you to have the full set of directions. Basically, for this one, we're going to work with a new article called Just Not Feeling It, or When You Don't Love a Subject You Have to Take. For some of you, it might be this class. You're going to read it. Again, when it says starting on page 31 in College, that's telling you it's in our textbook on page 131. As you read through that particular piece, what you're going to be looking for is what is the author's thesis, what are the main ideas the authors has, and then what are some supporting details. If you're back here saying, I don't know what thesis is, I will create a link there so that you can go back to our writer's workshop and our quiz on thesis statements. If you're not sure what main idea is, I'm going to link you to the piece where I talked about main ideas in week 4. So each one of these is building off of what we've done in previous weeks. Project number 2, though, asks for you to fill in this mystery reading chart. Let me show you what that looks like. Here's the example of the reading chart. When you click the document in Canvas right here, this will open into this Word document. The title is Just Not Feeling It. When you don't love a subject you have to take, it's in quotes because it's a title. You're going to type in the author, and then what you're going to do is use a signal phrase to tell what the thesis of the article is. I'd like the thesis to be in your own words. So you're reading through it. What is the author's overall big point? That's her thesis. Then you're going to go into main idea, and you're going to tell me in this particular article there was 4 big ideas beyond the thesis covers everything. Then I can break it down into 4 main ideas. Not necessarily one per paragraph. It might be 2 or 3 paragraphs all are kind of glommed into one idea. And then underneath it, here's the details that I think support that main idea. Again, you may need to go back and review main idea versus details. There's a couple videos and pieces there. When you're doing that, or when you're filling in the chart, I want to point out that this chart goes up to 8. You might only say, I only found 5 main ideas. That's fine. I purposely put in more than I think there are in the article because I don't want to give you a set number. I'm really, in a sense, testing, could you find the main ideas? If you'd like to see an example, I actually have right here embedded in our weekly module, a sample chart. And the sample chart was done by a student. It's not perfect, but it'll give you some ideas. It actually is on a whole different article, purposefully, but it gives you examples. Here's a signal phrase, and then it also shows you a signal phrase with what we call an in-text citation, which is the page number that they found this idea on, and it'll show you how you can have details. Details, by the way, could be in quotes. Main ideas should be paraphrased. So when I'm reviewing this students, I'm going to say, oh, time out. You actually quoted them on an idea and I really wanted those paraphrased. So this is a great draft of one. It could definitely be better. All right, so I've given you a couple tools so you can see what those look like. When you get to the rough draft discussion board for this one, you're going to attach your rough draft. So you will have opened up this template. You'll have filled in the blanks as best you can. Don't forget to do file save. Pardon me. And then you're going to post it as a reply, just like you did last week for project number 1. When you could, and you can add a question or a comment if you're really confused, like, could somebody help me on this? When you reply to your peers, these 4 questions are what you're answering in there about their chart. And I'd like you to be as specific as possible. Please don't just say, looks good, looks good, looks good. That's not going to be helpful. So say, actually their paraphrasing was really accurate. I felt like they captured it. So don't just say yes. Tell me what. Most people will have something that they maybe are different. Theirs may look different from yours, and so you comment on that. Well, yours seems accurate, but it's different from mine. Please also realize when a peer gives you feedback, they may be wrong. I mean, they're going to give you what their best intention is, so always weigh it back with what do you think is the right answer. I do want to point out this note. You will not see anybody's replies until you post your own. I've done it that way on purpose because I don't want someone going on there and just looking what everybody else did and said, oh, okay, here's what I have to do. You are going to have to try this on your own, have a go. It's a rough draft. I will be also adding some comments. So just realize it's just a rough draft. You're just having a go at this. Okay, that is the Project 2 overview. The one other piece you have for this week is there's a thing called the Scholarship Essay Rough Draft. I posted a little content page on Scholarship Essay, I think in week 3. I'm actually asking you to create a scholarship essay. It's going to be low points. It's not worth a lot. In fact, the draft of this is only worth 8 points. But I feel so strongly that students need to either apply for a scholarship or at least have an essay ready. So you write an essay right now. It might take you half an hour to an hour. You're getting credit for it. So then if you decide you want to apply for a scholarship, or you apply for a job and they say, well, we need you to have a letter about your background, you can just pull from the essay. Let's say you want to get into the nursing program and they need an essay, like why should we let you in the nursing program? Now you've got your essay. So this essay is more than a scholarship essay. It's actually giving an overview of kind of who you are, where you've come from, and then what you hope to get out of life. When you read through the directions here, I want to point out the second bullet point, explain the extent of your financial need. You do not have to put that in the essay you submit to me. It's just if you actually do apply for a scholarship, that can be a really useful piece. I will also put in a couple other ideas in our weekly module when I'm done with the video that will kind of help with, here's some tips on how you can organize that. Okay, please, as always, let me know if you have any questions. I really appreciate the hard work that you're putting in. Thanks.